All right. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Perfect.
Put
Okay.
on it.
Um, Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Dear Lost Mom. I can't believe it's episode 11 already. I've had 11 guests, so that's awesome. I have with me here today Kathryn Kat.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you're joining us all the way from, I think you said Indiana?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. So sorry we had a little bit of technical difficulties, which is why we're starting a little bit late. But I'm so excited to have her here to kind of share her journey and share her son Isaiah with us. So I'll let you take the floor wherever you want to start with your story, the
Okay,
beginning.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my husband Will and I, we have been married almost 5 years, and we have an older son, Eli. He's 3. He was born in January of 2020.
Hmm.
And then it's kind of crazy how everything worked out. We bought our first home in September of 2021, and then I found out I was pregnant with Isaiah that same week. Yeah, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was just amazing to see like the way that the Lord made everything kind of happen.
Yeah, blessings
Um,
upon blessings. That's awesome.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we always wanted 2 boys. That was like our dream. So we found out we were having a boy, and as we bought a fixer upper, so we were flipping this house, and
Hmm.
we had the name Isaiah chosen because it's a biblical name, and so is Eli. And so my husband was actually in the basement of this vacant house we were flipping, and
Oh.
he found a painting of the verse Isaiah 40:31, which is the verse that we named Isaiah after.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was like the Lord's confirmation that that was going to be his name.
Yeah.
Um, so my pregnancy was pretty normal, except I was really sick in the
Okay.
first trimester, super sick. And then at the end of my pregnancy with him, at like 34 weeks, I got a kidney stone.
Oh
It was
no.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually had to have surgery when I was 34 weeks pregnant to have it removed.
Oh my gosh.
It was, yes.
Was it related to the pregnancy at all, or was it just
Um, they didn't seem to think
yeah.
so. It was really large, so it was probably just kind of sitting in my kidney for a while. And
Okay.
then when it came out, it was so bad. I have given birth twice, and I would rather give birth without an epidural than ever with.
Really? Oh my gosh. Oh, I've never had kidney stones, so I wouldn't know, but oh my gosh.
It's horrible. It's horrible. So we got through that,
Okay.
and then Isaiah was born April 9th of 2022, and it was just a magical delivery. Um, Everything was perfect, so perfect.
Yeah.
And we finally had that it was like our family was complete. We were just
Mhm.
praising God, like we have our 2 boys, and um, little did we know that we would only get to love Isaiah Earthside for 4 months and 30 days.
Mhm.
Um, so he was perfect. He was healthy, and through the summer, I'm a nursing student, and I will also work full time.
Mm.
I actually work with traumatic brain injuries quite often because I work
Wow.
at a rehab facility.
Okay.
Um, so I see a lot, and I've seen a lot since
Mhm.
I was 18. I've been in this field for
Yeah.
a lot of years, and so I went back to work, and my husband does contracting, so he got to be home a lot with the boys, which is such a blessing.
Yeah.
But my cousin, who's also the godmother of them, nannied them over the summer when my husband would be on job,
Mhm.
and she is amazing. And so in September, my birthday was September 1st,
Okay.
and we had like the best day. It was just such a, I was just like praising God. I turned 25, and I had this dream. I just
Yeah.
had my 2 boys, I had a wonderful husband and a wonderful
Mhm.
father to them. And that was Labor Day weekend came, and we saw all of our family,
Mhm.
everyone. We saw everybody. And then on Tuesday, September 6th, I was at work, and I was actually clocking out, and I got a call from my husband, and he was
Mhm.
hysterical. And he said that he walked in and Isaiah wasn't breathing.
Okay.
Um, and at first, I wasn't processing what was going on.
Right.
And then I heard the paramedics in the background working on him.
Mhm.
And I just started saying, "What hospital are they going to take him to? What hospital?"
Mhm.
And the paramedic said, we don't know yet. We're still working on him. And I knew that that was not good.
Yeah.
So I called my mom, and my mom was on the phone with me as I was rushing home,
Mm-hmm.
and she was praying, and I still was not processing what was going on. And then I got to our house, and it was like a scene out of a movie. I mean, there were firefighters, there were ambulance, there were police, you know,
Yeah.
our neighbors were out. It was just horrific. It's like time just stood still.
Right.
So I ran up the driveway, and my husband, who is truly the most amazing man I have ever met in my life, he was just completely broken. I mean, and I went up to him and I said, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay."
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I had looked, and they were still working on Isaiah and the ambulance. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said, um, "Can I go with you guys?" And so they said yes. And I got into the passenger seat of the ambulance, and I looked back, and I just saw his little shoulders. And there were 4 or 5 people working on him.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about just seeing his little shoulders, but it became very real to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he still had not had a heartbeat. So we got to the hospital, and as soon as we pulled up to the emergency room, they got a heartbeat back. Um, After 2 doses of adrenaline, people in the medical field will understand what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got there, and then a nurse took me to like a private room, and I still wasn't all the way understanding of what was going on.
Processing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so then my husband and my father arrived because my mom actually was driving to my house. I didn't know it, but she was just like, "We're going to their house." And my mom and dad went there.
Okay.
My dad came to the hospital with Will, and he said, "I fed him, I put him down to go get Eli ready for bed," which was very normal. And I came back, and he was not breathing. And I
Mm-hmm.
started CPR right away. Um, and my husband is certified in CPR. He acted exactly how he should have.
Right.
It's very traumatic. Um, and so the doctor came in, and the doctor said that he had a sudden cardiac arrest, and they're not sure why,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what happened, and that he was stable, but they needed to send him up to the Children's Hospital upstate.
Okay.
Is Riley Children's Hospital in Indiana, and that's where you want to be with
Mm-hmm.
anything. You want to be there. So everything happened quite quickly. Um, we got to go see Isaiah, and he was intubated, and the life flight team came. And so all we knew was that he had a sudden cardiac arrest and COVID, and they do not know why.
Mm.
And so we got to Riley, and in the line of work that I do, I know the reality of the situation. And so as we were driving up there, I knew
Yeah.
we were going to be making some very, very hard decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we got there, and he was completely on life support. And with brain injuries like hypoxia, which is actually what happened was he had oxygen loss from the
Okay.
code.
Right.
Um, and the brain is an organ you just cannot. Once the brain cells are deceased, you cannot bring them back. You know, some
Mm-hmm.
organs like the liver and the lungs, you can aid them back and recover them, but the
Right.
brain is not an organ that can do that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Um, so with TBIs, it takes about 24 to 36 hours to see the actual damage that the brain has taken. So
Okay.
that entire day, which was September 9th, September 8th, actually, because that
Mm-hmm.
actually happened on September 6th. Yes.
Okay.
We, family came, and we were praying,
Mm-hmm.
and our pastor came up and dedicated Isaiah, and we were, given an ultimatum from the team up there, and we had to pull him off life support, um, because his quality of life was number one to us.
Of
And,
course.
you know, a lot of parents that are put in these situations, they don't have the background um, that I do. So
Right.
I was like, it is not an option to have him a vegetable. That I'm not going to put him through that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was truly amazing to see that staff up there at Riley. They were so amazing to us with to see, like almost like the relief from the doctors. They were like, it's so refreshing to have parents like you because all
Yeah.
of these children, they had trachs and it was just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Isaiah would not have even, I feel like, survived the trach. I don't think that he would have survived it. We stand 100% on the decision that we made.
Right.
Um, and so we got to hold Isaiah and they took out the breathing tube. And we got to give him his last bath and we
Mm-hmm.
got to do all of the things that Riley was so amazing to us. I just cannot even express my gratitude for the team up there.
Yeah.
We still have a relationship with everyone up there just because they treated us so good and our
Mm-hmm.
son's so good. So I was holding Isaiah as he was passing, and it's very hard to see if anyone has had a family member maybe on hospice to see, the labored breathing, and it's just very hard to witness.
Right.
Can't make it better for them. And so I was holding him, and everyone was just, we were praying, and just we wanted him to pass away with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I knew in my heart that Isaiah was already with the Lord. I 100% know that. And, um, you know, the Lord gave us an opportunity that many SIDS parents do not get. Many SIDS babies cannot be resuscitated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I have thanked God for that time that He gave us with His body, just to
Mm-hmm.
allow us to kind of say goodbye. That there was just no life in him, and it was so haunting to witness.
Right.
You never imagine you're going to be put in this situation, like, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this happens to other people, is what your brain tells you.
Right.
You just never expect it. You just never expect it.
Mm-hmm.
So he passed, and time stood still. Um, they did an autopsy, and they couldn't find anything wrong with him. And that for me is haunting because
Right.
he was so healthy. He was developmentally advanced. He never had a fever in his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was perfect, not any health issues whatsoever. And I just stand there like, how is medicine so advanced as it is, but we can't figure
We
out
can't
why
fake.
healthy babies are just coding?
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
um, so you learn a lot after you had to bury your child about SIDS. And I mean, you can do everything right. We never co-slept. We did literally everything that you're taught to do,
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, and it still happened to us.
Right.
And that is just not. It's so hard to wrap your head around.
Mm-hmm.
You just stand here like, why? How does a completely perfect child just have a cardiac arrest? I just don't understand. Um, but we are in a research study for SIDS at Boston Children's Hospital and
Mm-hmm.
Harvard Medical School,
Okay.
um, that one of my dear friends got us with them. That she was on I think she was a couple weeks ago. She was on with you guys. So we are in that study.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, um, we can possibly get answers, or we'll at least know if it's genetic,
Right.
and that gives me as much peace as you can. I want to know if it's genetic.
Right.
That's something that's very important, I think, to all families that have had this happen to them. Um, but grief, especially child loss grief, is
Mm-hmm.
something that unfortunately unfortunately happens, not as much as it could happen, I
Right.
suppose. But I think after, you lose a child, you
Mm-hmm.
see how common it really is.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like I have connected with mothers all around the world that this has
Mm-hmm.
happened to. Um, and I'm just like, why? Why does this happen?
Yeah.
Why is it not talked about?
Mm-hmm.
People get so uncomfortable with child loss. Um, but for me, it's my faith in the Lord is really what keeps me above water. I
Right.
mean, if I didn't have that, I do not know how I would survive it. Because when you're put on your knees in a situation, at least for me, it was I needed to hear from God because I knew that my son was with God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go into his nursery and I would just weep. And I was raised in a Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
I always had faith, but I never knew the Lord like I do now. Um, Unfortunately, that is what made me need the Lord so much. And I wish He didn't have to open my eyes in the way that He did,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not, I'm not God. So I've just had to kind of lay that at His feet and say, I don't understand what you're doing, but I know your character and I know who you are and I know
Mm-hmm.
what the Bible says you are. Um, so through my grief, especially in the first days and weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I would go into into my prayer closet and just seek God because when I was seeking the Lord, I felt closer to Isaiah. I
Yeah.
I felt like I had this like I'm floating in between the veils, if
Mm-hmm.
you would. Like half of you is in heaven and half of you is on earth, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I was just coming to God and I was saying, I need to know. You need to show up. I need you to show up now.
Right.
And he has. He has shown up every single time that I've called upon him. And I feel like when you go through such trauma and
Mm-hmm.
you really get into the word, into scripture, you're able to understand scripture in a different way. And the Lord is able to show you how it applies to you, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And so at first, in the first, month or two, I wasn't suicidal, but I had no will to live.
Right.
I was just like, God, I just want to be with my son.
Right.
Help us so,
Mm-hmm.
and I have Eli that I have to live for. But
Mm-hmm.
that's truly the place I was in. I just had no will. And finally, the Lord was able to turn it around for me and share with me, Kathryn, you have an assignment that I
Mm-hmm.
have given you through this. The enemy wants you to go away, and he wants you to um, deny deny your faith. That's what he wants you to do. And I really believe that that's what the enemy wants anyone to do when they're in
Right.
such pain. Why would
Mm-hmm.
God allow this? And all of these things that the world tells you how to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was able to say, all right, Lord, show me from a spiritual view what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really started to go into this journey of my faith and say, okay, whatever you're gonna do it. Just do. If I'm gonna have to stay on earth, I want to glorify you.
Right.
I want to use um I want to I don't want my son to die in vain. And I
Mm-hmm.
want him, if anything, to bring more people to you, Lord, that are grieving. If you can give me any wisdom
Yeah.
to help other mothers, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So be it. Um, and that's really when the Lord began to um, refine me, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense, refine me and my husband in affliction. And I'm a writer, so I write a lot. And so I just began writing.
Yes, I saw your
Uh,
blog, which is beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, I read a couple of
thank you.
entries. Yeah, I was gonna
Thank
ask you about it
you.
too at some point, but I'm glad you brought it
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
thank you. Because it's for me, it's like if I put my energy into making what has happened to us um, into something that can help someone else.
Right.
Um, instead of sitting in my house and just pity me
Right.
and letting this very tragic trauma destroy who I am and
Right.
allow it to make me bitter and to hate people and to blame the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of given these two opportunities. You can say, well, I'm going to be bitter. I don't want to be around babies.
Right.
I'm going to make what has happened to me my entire identity. And I think that's so easy to do, especially in fresh grief.
Right.
Um, and, with grief, you can feel so strong one day and the next day you're completely wiped out. And
Mm-hmm.
that is just a cycle that I know that and that you have to learn to live with. Um,
Absolutely.
but the Lord is still there,
Mm-hmm.
even with those moments where it's just like I can't do it today. Lord, just carry me today. I whispered to God so many times, God, I just need you to carry me today. I can't fight today. Um, so my faith, it's really I truly believe that Isaiah was sent to the earth and sent here to purify my husband and I and to
Mm-hmm.
show us God's character. The verse Isaiah 40:31 was the verse he was named after, but it's also the compass of grief, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, um, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength and they will soar on wings like eagles. They will not grow weary.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're holding on by just a thread,
Mm-hmm.
He will give you the strength. So it's amazing to see, the way that the Lord does work and the way that I feel like the world tells us, well, if you're a Christian, all these things won't happen to you, and that's just not true. It's
Right.
it's not.
Yeah.
Every prominent author of the scriptures had something horrible happen to them. Look
Mm-hmm.
at Mary. Mary
Mm-hmm.
had to watch her son be crucified and tortured. So that's been able to turn around, like, why me, Lord?
Right.
And this might be kind of odd to say, but like, why not you? Is
Mm-hmm.
what the Lord was like, why not you? You
Yeah.
know? And it's really hard to wrap your head around
It
that. I
is.
know.
Yeah. I think I've heard someone say, like, God doesn't promise like a life without suffering. Like I've heard friends say, like, you wouldn't know so much love if you didn't feel, the opposite, the other end of it. But like you had mentioned and touched on, like, it's so easy for someone, going through the grief, um, just experience it to easily, go into that dark place.
Yes.
And I think it's very, inspiring that you were able to lean on your faith in those hard times. What would you, I guess, tell someone who is struggling to make sense of it all? I know you said you kind of gave it to God and kind of surrendered yourself and said you gave it to Him to help. How would you, I don't know, someone who is wanting that load off, that relief, but not sure where to start? Because I know for me,
Right.
um, you know, it's easy to feel like a lot of anger, a lot of,
Yes.
why, like you said, why us? Like, we did everything
Mm-hmm.
right, what would you say to someone, I guess, like needing a little bit more of, like, I guess,
Yeah.
direction? Yeah.
Right. Um, so firstly, the Lord, in scripture, he felt everything that humans felt. That's why he came in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
He grieved. His friend Lazarus, he grieved. So, when I was in, and I still have the days that I'm just like, I cannot make sense of this.
Right.
I I think surrendering in a way, it's like I'm not accepting that my son passed away.
Mm.
I'm having to face it and know that it's real. And some things on this earth we are never going to know until we are up with our Father in heaven,
Right.
able to see, give us a view of His view. I think knowledge is not always, what would I say? Like, it's not always beneficial,
Right.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard to accept, especially when it is child loss.
Right.
Um, at least that's what I have felt the Holy Spirit share with me is, you don't understand right now, Kathryn, and I'm not going to share everything with you until we are in the halls of healing when you are called home,
Mm-hmm.
and I can show you all of the directions that this situation could have gone. In the book of Isaiah, it actually speaks about how the godly pass away because no one seems to understand, but that the Lord is protecting them from the evil to come.
Mm-hmm.
So as a father, as a mother, and the Lord being a father, I've had to say, God, He's your son too,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that you're doing what's best for him, even though my human brain cannot comprehend that.
Right.
And a lot of it, I think that someone that may not have um, like the foundation of faith,
Yeah.
just going into a place, wherever it is in their house, and just saying, okay, God, if you're real,
Mm-hmm.
reveal yourself to me. And He will do it. Sometimes He doesn't do it in the time frame we want Him to. But I've
Right.
told people that, just go and ask Him,
Mm-hmm.
and He will reveal Himself.
Mm-hmm.
And on this side of eternity, we're not going to know everything. And it's
Right.
one of the hardest parts about loss is the why, because
Yes.
our human, yeah, like our human brain
Mm-hmm.
need that answer. And that's where we go, well, should I have done this? Or what if
Mm-hmm.
this? Unfortunately, that is just
Right.
something you have to face.
I feel like it's not all like I was telling like my therapist, I wish there was like a manual. You do this, and you're done with grief,
Yeah.
But like I think that that's how it is. Like you're saying, is that there's not um like a linear way or like a directional thing. Like you do this, and you're gonna feel at peace all of a sudden. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like it's just I don't know. I think you said it perfectly.
Well,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna kind of wing this.
No, you're
I don't.
totally fine. I mean, like, I'm kind of going into this. I think it's so great that, and I was so excited to have you on, is because, like, I myself, going through things is I didn't grow up in a very religious household, but like I feel that need to just I want peace. I told like the other day, I'm going through it right now. This month is kind of tough for me, and I was just driving home, and for some reason, I just felt the need to like drive to a church. I was looking for a 24-hour church. I was like, let me go somewhere where I can feel something. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was I was looking for, but I just felt compelled to like drive somewhere. And like I think there's a lot of other mamas out there that can kind of relate to wanting to feel some kind of peace and not maybe not knowing like where to start. And so I
Yeah.
think what you said can definitely be helpful for anyone who's trying to, you know, take a step towards having their faith be restored again, because like
Yes.
you said, losing a child, no one expects it. It's not something you plan. It's not something that you're prepared for, or that you can um you know navigate through easily. And so like you said, I think giving some of that weight to God and just kind of
Yes.
taking
Yes.
that load off. I think what you said earlier really resonated with me. You said something about surrendering doesn't necessarily mean that you're accepting what happened.
Yes.
And that
Exactly.
really hit home with me, because I think the misconception is that if you do that, then you're saying, okay, then I understand that, this is, he died because of this for this reason. I don't know. I feel like it gets so tricky because some people, how they say they don't like that saying, like, this was the plan. Um,
Mhm.
I don't
Well, I think it's
know.
a human way. Like it's the world, says grieve this way. This
You're
is,
right. Yeah.
and really having to surrender it to God and say,
Mm-hmm.
God, this is how I'm feeling. Can you please give me some type of wisdom from the spiritual view of what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, what
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing. Um, with Isaiah, now that I look back,
Mm-hmm.
and people in our family will say this too, he was just different.
Yeah.
There was just something about him. And I know that the Lord had an anointing on him and his story. And that is so hard to grip,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the early times of grief. Like people say, time heals everything. And time does help. I believe that.
Right.
Uh, but I do not believe that we are going to be healed completely until we are reunited with our children.
Right.
Um, and so, fighting through it and
Mm-hmm.
allowing the Lord to take some of your suffering and to mold it into something good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Lord
As
promises
best
that,
as it can be.
yes,
Right. Right.
um, it will allow this journey on earth to be much more peaceful
Mm-hmm.
and bearable than if we just say, I can't do this, God. I can't
Right.
do this. I can't live without my child. And so many people have said to me, I just can't imagine.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'm like, I hope you never have to imagine.
Right.
Like, that is
Yeah.
how bad it is. And then I have
Mm-hmm.
some dear friends that are deep in Christianity like I am, and they'll say, I just can't comprehend your faith. And I will literally think in my heart, I hope you never have to exercise this kind of faith.
Right.
I hope you never have to.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and my pastor said something a couple Sundays ago that really resonated with me. He said, in heaven, there is a trust scale.
Okay.
So if he's looking at you and
Mm-hmm.
he's saying, I can trust her with this. It's gonna hurt, but I know that she's not gonna deny me. Like in the book of Job, everything
Mm.
was taken from Job. And the enemy, came to God and he said, if you take everything from him, he's gonna deny your name.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. He still said, God, you're taking everything from me. He even cursed the day he was born, which that the book of Job is an amazing book to start in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
with this type of thing. And that's kind of where I felt like I was at. It's like I have so much drive for the enemy not to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even when I feel so defeated, I'm not going to denounce God. I just can't.
Right.
And it's so easy to. It's so,
Right. Of course, when you're in
once you,
pain and yeah, and it
yes,
gets dark and you're clouded and you're in that moment. I mean, the emotions can be, I know, is like overwhelming, strong.
yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah.
And God knows that. He honors that. Um, and that's something I've been able to see from a different view now. Like
Mm-hmm.
God, the world will say, well, God is the master of all things, right? He is.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't make bad things happen. Sin does that. Sin contaminated the entire world in the first days. So I try to look at it as, God allowed this, and the enemy wanted to destroy our family through this and destroy any family through this
Mm-hmm.
grief. This is like a tactic of the enemy.
Right.
So that's when you're like, I'm not gonna let you win, Satan. Not
Mm-hmm.
today. You're not gonna mess with this family. You have no business here. And I really became so much aware of spiritual warfare through grief,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like having the enemy tell you and the world tell you this is the
Yeah.
way, you're never gonna be okay again. You're never gonna find joy again. And then, the Lord's on this side saying, just come to me.
Right. And I
And
think when people are going through this, their immediate thought is to think that like God did this to me,
yes.
and like to put the blame like in that area. But
Mm-hmm.
something kind of that reminded me of when you were talking just now is I was speaking to someone and they were explaining, you mentioned this earlier about like your mother and that God is the father of all of us. And so, from the perspective of a parent, you love your children. You want your children, to be happy. Why would anyone want to purposely say like, hey, I'm gonna make you suffer, I want you to be sad for the rest of your life? Like that doesn't make sense.
It's not
And
God's character
right, like you said,
for
and
any
I
parent.
feel like for God, like if he is what we are, what the Bible says and what we're taught is he's all loving and all good, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense that he would do that, you know? And like I get conflicted when I start thinking about all of it. It's
Yeah.
just, it's a lot to really wrap your head around.
Hmm.
Because like you said, you have another side of you who's grieving, who's kind of fighting heads with like, this can't be real. And then another
Yes.
part of you that is trying to rationalize. But like you said
Mhm.
earlier, like there's not, you can't rationalize what we can't comprehend, I think is what
Yes.
you said. Ooh,
Hmm.
that's deep.
Yeah. I
I just
mean,
started talking. I was like, it makes sense though, you know, when you say it out loud and, you know, you talk to someone
like,
about it.
some knowledge um, is going to be kept from us.
Yeah,
For, I, I believe that if we knew everything, why would we need faith?
right. Yeah,
The
if you knew how the
whole,
story ended, like, what's the
yes.
point? Yeah.
And like, at least for me, like I said earlier, I really feel like the Lord has an assignment on my life and my
Mm-hmm.
husband's life, because I see so many parents, even lately, so many families have endured this type of loss.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I see mothers that have been grieving for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
the enemy has been able to simmer on their grief and just put them in this dark place for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much harder to come to a mother, that has been grieving like that for so many years, and tell them about Jesus, and tell them,
To pull them
um,
out of that. Yeah.
yeah, or like the freedom, not the all the way freedom, but the peace that the Lord wants to give you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of been sitting in this time of waiting. I know that the Lord has an assignment for me to help all other moms, and to take what has happened to me and make it something that is my purpose
A
for
little
my
bit
life.
meaningful, right? Something that you said, I know you felt like you lacked that purpose in the beginning of the initial loss of your son.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like I want to come to these moms early in their grief, and I just want to hug them and tell them, Lord, the Lord loves you, and I know this doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
we're going to get through this. And I really truly believe that that is the assignment that the Lord has on my life and my husband's life. And I've looked at it in a way like, I know that my son is in heaven. I know that he is safe. I just don't hope that, I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was on life support and we had to make so many difficult decisions, my husband and I both thought, we're adults. We can handle this grief as long as he's not suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's where I know that he's not suffering, and I know that he is with the Lord. I know that, with all of my heart, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I would rather me have to endure this than for him to, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah. From a mother's perspective, you know, as a parent, do you feel like that
Mm-hmm.
gives you peace to know that he is safe? He is,
Yes,
yeah.
it would be so difficult to think that he was suffering, and I know that he's
Right.
not. And I've seen a kind of a trend lately that has been like, you're not ever going to see him again, and that's just not true. And I I want to be able to go to other moms and
Yeah.
tell them, this does not have to be the end for you.
Right.
This is not the end. Um, you are going to see him again. You're going to see her again. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to show you who God is and who Jesus is. I want to show you his character. Um, and so I've looked at it like, the Lord has allowed this to happen to our family.
Right.
I have to stay on earth as long as he needs me to, and I'm okay
Mm-hmm.
with that now. And it's like, if you're going to make me stay here, then I want it to glorify you. I want anything
Right.
in my life to glorify you. Um, and it's like, after I've finished that assignment, and I've been able to help other people
Mm-hmm.
through the purpose that the Lord has given me, all I want is when I get to heaven, I want the Lord to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Because people that endure things like we have endured
Right.
are going to receive so much righteousness and joy in the heavenly realm. It says in the book of Peter, nothing, the Lord is going to restore you, and there's nothing in this world that is
Mm-hmm.
going to compare to what is waiting for us, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, I feel like for me at least, I see it as like, I don't ever want to talk about Isaiah as being dead because he's not dead.
Right.
And he's more, I mean, Noah, is it Noah?
It is
Or,
Noah. Yeah.
okay, I wanted to, yeah, because I
Yeah.
follow another person that her son's name is Noah as well. So I was
Yeah.
like,
It's a common name. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Noah.
yeah,
His name's
I love the
Noah.
name Noah. It's
Thank
a
you.
beautiful name. Um, they are together and I tell you this and I tell every other mother this, any
Mm-hmm.
child that has passed before their time, they are so loved by God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so, so loved. I really believe they're favored by Him. They've never known anything except for love.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's all they ever knew.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, how loved you must be by God for Him to spare you
Mm-hmm.
from a spiritual view.
Right.
Um, that doesn't make child loss okay at all. It doesn't,
Right. It
because
doesn't make it easier.
it doesn't
Absolutely.
it doesn't make it easier. It's just I try to focus on those sides of it because that's really how I survive it.
Yeah. And I don't think, I know when it first happened for me, at least, like, I couldn't fathom Noah being, on the other side, like, just like in darkness, like there has to be
Yes.
more than just this world. And it took me a long time to really separate my mind from like his body and his spirit.
Yes.
I knew
Me
like when
too.
I looked at him, in his casket at his funeral, it was like that's not him anymore. As much as like that's something that you see, that you touch, that you hold. Those are all the memories, but it was hard for me to kind of transition that thinking into like he is still okay, his spirit is elsewhere, and like I really wanted to believe that someone's taking care of him and he's not just he's a baby. I was like, who's taking care of him? Who's like playing with him? Who's making sure he's eating on the other side? All the little things that you worry
Yes.
about. And like, I think without faith, I don't know, like you said, how it would be okay for me. Like, I don't think I
Yeah.
could
Me
fathom
either.
it, and survive like, oh, he's non-existent anymore. There's nothing on the other side. Or like he's on the other side, but it's just there's no one with him. Like I can't imagine
Mhm.
that. And I've seen,
Yeah.
I don't know if you believe in like signs, but
I do.
yeah, I've
Yes,
seen
I
signs
can.
from my son. So I feel like he has to be
Yes.
somewhere. Like I know that's him. So
Yeah. Well,
like yeah. Go on. You were
like
saying.
I was I was reading a passage the other day and it was talking about like a cloud of witnesses that are
Mhm.
cheering us on in the race of faith. So I believe that the Lord does allow our loved ones to see us. I
Okay.
believe that. Some Christians may not, but that's what I believe.
Right.
There's been signs that I know our God.
Mhm.
Like there's just no other way.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. Like it's yeah, you
No.
just feel it
And
too, I feel like you
yes,
just
and
know like that's him.
yeah, and the Lord is so loving and He's such a loving Father. He can send signs if He wants to.
Mhm.
Like on our anniversary, actually, because the verse Isaiah 40:31 is an eagle. So like the
Yeah.
eagle just represents Isaiah.
I read that in
And
your blog. I thought that was sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
and my husband and I were driving, and we look over in this field near our home, and there's a bald eagle, plain as day, right there. He looks at us, and then he flies off, majestically flies off.
Yeah.
And I thought that was God. That was not a
Yeah.
coincidence, And like he didn't have to send that, but he did. He just said, "Oh, I'm going to send them a little sign today
Mhm.
because I love them. I want them to know that I'm with them and I see them and their
Yes.
baby's okay."
Yeah.
So, people that are like, "Well, I don't think signs can happen." I mean, God can do what He wants, and
Mhm.
I know that the Father that I serve, I know His character, and I believe that He does send us things that just say, hey, I love you.
Right.
You
And
know,
it
hey,
kind of
I
gives
know
you
you're
that little
struggling.
affirmation too. I feel like when you start to feel like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while or I haven't seen anything. And then it
Yeah.
happens in the moment where I feel like you needed it a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, yeah, I love that.
Like, well, like when you said about seeing, you know, his body, I really struggled with that as well. And
Yeah.
um, some the way that I see it now is, you know, people say everybody has a soul,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that every soul has a body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the soul goes on forever,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just don't feel right saying everybody has a soul. I feel every soul has a body,
Yeah.
um, and I think of heaven so much. I kind of have like an obsession over it, which I feel like is kind of
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
um, because you're just so much of you is there.
Mm-hmm.
And with grief, child loss, all grief is so hard, but child loss is just very complex.
Oh yeah. And
Um,
like you said, it's not a common thing. It's not something people talk
right.
about. Like no one really like you do the whole order of life. Like no one expects, you know,
Yes.
your baby
Mm-mm.
to pass before you. Um
Right.
so yeah, like
And
you said, it's a different experience. Absolutely.
yeah, and you know, I've encountered people before that have the best intentions,
Mhm.
but they say things, and I'm just like, don't ever
Yeah.
say that to someone.
And you know what? It's like you were saying earlier, like I hope you never have to like go through this, but it's like you said something that was like maybe insensitive or not understanding, but it's like I'm glad that you don't because you're able
Yeah,
to
I
be a
don't ever
little
want you to
naive to that. Yeah, absolutely.
and you are. I feel like you are naive until it happens to you. Like
Yes.
you just never really think it will happen to you.
Mm-mm.
And then you're thrown into this journey that is so, I mean, it's like the sea of the unknown. It's just like
Right. Yeah.
you are surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like definitely, I feel like, at least in my, like my hometown and my community,
Mm-hmm.
we have such an amazing community,
I love that.
and our
Yeah.
church and just people that really surrounded us. But
Yeah.
something I kind of noticed is that people get so uncomfortable with child loss. And,
Yes,
you know,
girl.
yeah. And I'm like, I've
Yeah.
had people, like, especially my coworkers, and they're so amazing. I love the company I work for. They've been
Mm-hmm.
so supportive of me. But at first, people were like, I don't want to say anything to her. I don't want to upset her. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
speak his name because I have a
Yes.
fear that he's going to be forgotten and to know
Yes.
other people think about, yeah, like
Yes,
it
yes,
means
yes.
so much to us.
I feel that way 100% because it's like, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you can relate to this, but like our sons being so young and like not having
Mhm.
had been here for, long, it's just like I'm even worried sometimes that, I'll forget the way he feels or the way he smelled or like the little things because, it's been more time away than he was
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Um, and it's easy for other people to move on because it's like, well, I say move on,
Mhm.
but I guess like to carry about their daily life and not be affected by
Yes.
it because to them, it's just a story. It's our story. But for
Right.
for us, it's our life. It's
Yes.
we live it every single day, and they can hear it. They can say, oh, like that's so tragic, like it's so sad for them. But then they can go about the next day because they're not
Mhm.
living it. Um, and I feel like, yeah, that feeling of people forgetting. I know for me, like Noah was my only child, so
Yeah.
I mean, if you looked at me now, like I look young, it's like, oh, she doesn't have kids, but
It's so hard. Or
it's
like, how many
hard.
kids do you
Yeah.
have? That question.
Yes. And it's like I have this is so sad. My husband tells me not to think this way, but I had like a sweater that said like mom on it that I would wear all the time.
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
Noah passed away, like I kind of stopped wearing it. And it feels like, that you're not one anymore, or like I don't have a living child here with me to prove that I'm a mother anymore. So if I go out and I'm wearing a mom shirt, like it just feels like, you know
Mhm.
not, I guess, comfortable. My husband keeps
Yeah.
telling me, he's like, you're always going to be a mom. I know that
You are.
logically. Yeah. It's just, I guess it's hard, it's easy to feel lonely in this journey
Yes.
because it is something that's not common. I know I don't have any friends around me personally that's lost a child. Um,
Mhm.
but like you said, leaning into your faith, I think helps to make it not feel so lonely.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's something that, I've been, looking into. It's just, it's hard because I feel like people going through this type of grief have to want to seek, God, or
Mhm.
to seek, um, peace in understanding, because I feel like if you're in the moment and you're in that headspace that might not be the best,
Right.
you might not be as receptive to the things I feel like
Exactly.
he's trying to give us or send us. And I feel like when you're ready, or when anyone's ready, I feel like that you will seek it, not have someone come to
Right.
you and like when you're not ready,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. I don't know.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I
Yeah.
know if someone like tried to approach me like early on in the beginning, I feel like I would have been in the headspace where I just wouldn't be receptive to listening
Right.
in that
Right.
moment. It's like
Right.
it's a shocker. It's
It
something that you
is.
have to
I mean,
absorb and not
yes.
understand, but like realize that this really happened. Like,
Mhm.
it's just
Yeah, 'cause you're like a robot, and like at least like for me, like through the funeral,
yeah.
I was not there all the
Right. Yeah.
like I don't even remember the very first few days. I just know that there was a lot of people there and it was very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the thing about the Lord is he is so merciful and he does give us that time. Like, I mean, there are times I have like my prayer time in the evening
Yeah.
and I just have no words and I'll just cry and just weep.
Mm-hmm.
And God's like, that's fine. You need to weep.
Yeah.
And tears can be really the only prayers that we need sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think for like on like the biblical side for me is I almost get nervous when I try to talk to people sometimes, like other moms that have lost, and I try to talk to them about God because honestly, sometimes I don't even understand my peace.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like I am not operating on my own strength, and I don't have peace
Yeah.
every day.
Right.
I had the kid's birthday was on Easter this year, and leading up to his birthday was so tough. I
Yeah.
mean, I was just praying like I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get through this, and then it came, and it was the perfect day. Like our family got together,
Mm-hmm.
just had such a day that really was just full of celebrating the resurrection, celebrating Isaiah because he deserves to be celebrated.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
he deserves that,
Yeah.
and in like you said, he was so young,
Mm-hmm.
and was so young, and people sometimes have this thought process that haven't gone through this. Well, they can just have another one. I actually had someone say that to
Yeah.
me one time,
Oh my
and
gosh. I had a
I
neighbor tell us that too. Like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened, but you can try again. I was like that replaces the
what like
one
our
we
child
just
can, yeah,
lost?
never,
Like,
never, it will
oh,
never, yes,
people.
nothing will ever replace them ever.
No,
And
yeah.
um, you know, I I definitely want more children, and I believe
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord will you know, He will answer the desires of our hearts. And but Isaiah will never be replaced.
No.
Noah will
Yeah.
never be replaced, and that is such an insensitive thing to say.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn like things like that used to really get me angry. Like, how could you say that?
Yeah.
And finally, I had to just realize people just don't
They
know
don't.
how
Yep.
to respond, and
Yeah.
usually it's not malicious in any way. They just
Exactly.
say, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I have a very supportive family, thank goodness. I mean, there are some people that I'm in my family that they're just awkward about it, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I understand. But for me, I had close friends that I expected to be there for me, and then I had friends that I really
Mm-hmm.
didn't expect that showed up,
Oh yeah.
like a group of girls that didn't even know me well. They did a huge photography shoot in honor of
Oh,
Isaiah to help with funds.
I like that.
And yeah, and like another one of one of the girls that I know, they just did all of these things to be there for my family,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't have to be like they weren't obligated to. They just did it because they wanted to and they loved us.
Yeah.
And people that I just didn't expect to kind of show up and carry us through this. And then there were
Mm-hmm.
friends that I've been friends with many years that didn't say anything. And
Right. Yeah.
at first, it really angered me.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I've forgiven them, even if
Mm-hmm.
they don't realize um, how it hurt me. But I don't desire to have a relationship with those
Yeah.
friends any longer because it's like
Girl, you're
you just see,
speaking what I'm thinking right now.
you really see who's there for you.
Yes, and it's
it,
so sad because
it
like
is.
you see like you're going through the probably the hardest thing in your life.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I feel like I get torn because like I'm trying to be understanding. I'm trying to be like, okay, well, I can't expect them to know because they've never been through it. They're not going through it like I am. But at the same
Right.
time, like you said, it means all the world for the effort. I feel like of
Yes,
those friends who, like you said, just showed up.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, or like even just a message like I see what you guys are going through and
yeah,
I'm praying for you. Like it doesn't take any effort to just message somebody.
absolutely.
And it's better to say something even if it's small than to say
Then
nothing. And
say
I will
nothing.
say that if you know anybody that's grieving, please say something.
Right.
Please.
Yes.
Um
Check in
and
on us. Like even if it's like,
yes.
and I hate too though, like when they want to tiptoe around it because it
I
makes us
know.
feel like outcasted almost
Yes,
like we're now
yes,
marked like, oh, she's the one who lost her kid,
yes,
and
$100%.
it makes you feel weird about it, and
Yeah, and
I
it's
feel
like,
like yeah.
yes, I get that.
Yes.
Like, when I was younger, I wanted to be a mother so bad. Like my whole life, I wanted to be a mom. And I recently had literally said to my husband, I wanted to be a mom my whole life. And I
Mm-hmm.
never imagined I would be a mom to living children and I would be a bereaved mom.
Mm-hmm.
I just never
Yeah.
thought that I would have that title.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a club you just don't ever want to join. And one thing I definitely experienced is no matter, even if I don't know a woman,
Mm-hmm.
once you hear of a new loss, it just takes you back to like the time that it was so fresh for you, and it like takes you back to the time where
Yeah.
it started for you, and it just breaks my heart every time I hear
Yeah.
of anybody losing a child because I just think to myself, oh gosh, I remember,
Mm-hmm.
the days that were so hazy and so it's unbearable. And you just have like a soul tie almost to other moms,
Yeah,
even.
like it's already like a connection point made,
Yes,
which is it's
like
weird
they
to
get
say.
me.
Yeah, and like I know I was talking to like my therapist about this. It's like people can sometimes get caught up in like comparing like the story, and like I don't think, because I've had other moms come on here like that have like different types of losses, stillbirth or
Right.
something different, and I don't think that the experience means that we love our child any less than the other. Like,
Mm-mm.
doesn't matter. Like, the love that we have for our children is unmatched. And so
Exactly.
I feel like that is the connection point that we all kind of understand. I know when I was hearing you tell your story, and when I hear other moms come on here tell their story, like I feel it, because
Yes, you
when you were
do.
talking about it, it brought me back to the day in the NICU. It reminded me, because I held my son too, as he passed, and it just, I don't know. It's something that, like you said, the worst club to be in. Unfortunately, like I
Mm-hmm.
hate that I've met so many people who have
Mm-hmm.
gone through, child
Yes.
loss, but at the same time, this community has made me not feel like
Yes.
so isolated. I feel
Yes.
like there's people out there who just get it. Like I make a
You did
post,
it.
yeah, on my Instagram. Oh my gosh, I post some dark stuff sometimes because sometimes it's just in
Hey,
my
you got to
feels
though.
and I
No
just have
one
to
can.
let it
If no
out.
one's been through it, don't judge anything you've never been through.
Yes, and like
I've had to tell myself that I can't worry about what other people think about what I
that
post.
I've had to change that mentality because I was like, okay, I created Dear Lost Mama to be raw, to just let it all out. Like I can't back out now. But I remember making a post and I was like, oh gosh, like someone's gonna judge me and think I'm like crazy or that I'm like a little dramatic. But then I was like, no, I can't, because that's the whole reason why I created this page, to bring
Yes.
awareness and to talk about, like you said, what
And it's
people
a way
don't
to
talk about.
cope.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's healing to just let it out. And like, I know you said you write and it helps you. And like writing those little blurbs on Instagram or whatever it is that I'm making, it's my way of just releasing it. Cause I know it feels
Yeah.
so, it can be hard to just keep that bottled up and it can turn into something nasty. And so, I mean,
Right.
release it out there, and there's probably someone else out there who is thinking the same thing that we're
Yes.
thinking. So
Like, yeah, like I post a lot about Isaiah, and
yeah,
I used to be like, people are probably so tired of me posting about him. And
yes, because there's only
finally,
so much you can say about
I
them. Like the
know,
story's gonna
but
be the
it's like
same.
people are like, I don't know. I used to have this fear, like people are like, she just posts about him, to get pity and stuff. And
Oh
finally, I
gosh,
just had to say, you know what?
no.
And and I just came up with that in my head. Like
Mm-hmm.
people, they're probably thinking this. And
Yeah, because you care
first
about
of
what people
all,
think in a way,
yeah, first of all, I'm not going to care about what anybody thinks that has never been through what I've been through. And
Absolutely.
if they don't like it, they can unfollow me.
Exactly. Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
like,
Amen.
I mean, that's fine. I hope you
Yeah.
never have to be in the same boat as me. And that's something like with grief. It's so easy to have anger,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just like, oh, they don't understand, and they don't understand,
They
and
don't. Yeah.
like that's something I've really just had to soak in. Like, they don't understand, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not being malicious. They just don't understand,
Right.
and um, you know, there's people that they have the same mentality I think I had before this happened to me. That's never going to happen to me.
Yeah.
That happens to other people,
Right.
and then you're thrown into it, and it's like it's the most life changing thing you can go through.
Yes.
Not
Absolutely.
some, yeah, like it's not something that you're just gonna wake up and be fine one day. Grief is something that's never gonna go away. You're gonna live with it for the
Mm.
rest of your life, and
Yeah.
you have to allow it to if it manifests in a wave one day, you just have to
You
allow
have to
it.
just go through it. And that I hate that because I
I
know
know
any mama's going through this, like it sucks. Like
it does, and you feel so isolated, and you just want to
yeah.
scream.
And
There have
the
been times that I have ran into a field and screamed, girl, at
really,
midnight.
I need to try that because I feel like I just cry and cry and like that's my release. But it's
Yeah,
like I feel like the grief is just it's so strong and like one week I'm okay, the next week you're
yes,
not. And you hear everyone talk about like it's not linear and you got to go through it and it's something like you said that changes your life. And I've had a really hard time adjusting to that because it's like that grief is a part of your life now and that there's going to be moments where you fall to your knees and it's hard to imagine that it's going to be your life forever. And I know
yeah,
within time, like you mentioned earlier, like it might lessen a little bit. Doesn't mean you forget or it hurts any less when it happens, but it's like I think it's hard to accept that grief is woven into your life now, and navigating through, life after loss. It's
yes.
just, it's,
It's it's horrible. I
it is.
mean, it's like sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and like in the first month or so. So we buried Isaiah, and Will and I got two plots too. So we're gonna be right next. Will's here. This is Isaiah, and here's me.
Mm-hmm.
And so his headstone has all three of us on it, and
Oh, that's
that
beautiful.
gives yeah, it gives me comfort, and like I'm gonna be there with him. No one else is gonna be there. It's gonna be me and my
Yeah.
husband. Yeah. So in the very early days, I would literally go to his grave and I would lay there at night because I was afraid he was going to cry. or
Yeah.
I just, and no one knows that really. Like I would just get up in the middle of the night and I would go there and I would just lay there, like waiting for him to cry. And that is really hard because I
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out a way to still parent them.
From afar.
So, you know, it's your natural instinct to parent your child.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really difficult to like you said, like someone's taking care of him. It was difficult for me to think like who's on the other side taking care of my baby,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a natural instinct, and
Yeah.
it's something that, you know, every I mean most mammals have, you know, for their children,
Right.
and that's a part that I've had to really surrender and say, you know, Lord, this is my natural instinct, and He knows that, and He's like, it's good you're feeling that. I mean, it's not good, but it's natural. You're
Right. It's
human.
normal you lost your child,
Yeah,
you know,
you
like
know,
this is
I would be concerned if you didn't feel that way.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but I've had to kind of realize like when it comes to heaven, you know, it's like I hope they have this there and I hope they have that there. And the Holy
Right.
Spirit said, Kathryn, you're not going to want for anything there.
Mm-hmm.
They are okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, heaven is something we cannot even comprehend. Like I've thought about that. Like, do they have a daycare there?
I know.
You know, do they have out
Like, is
there?
there
And
enough milk up there for them to eat? Like the little things. I know it's like ridiculous, but I've thought that too. I'm like, who's feeding him?
yeah,
Even though I know like he probably doesn't, I don't know, need to eat, or I don't know how it works. Only, you know, we'll know
like
when
how
we
old they
pass.
are.
Right.
Yeah, like how old they are there.
Exactly. Like I feel like
All of these things.
we can speculate, but we really won't know until we go, you know? And I feel like just having that peace and knowing that they're safe
Yes.
is what, you know, brings, you know, mom's comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about you know, laying with your son and visiting him, like I don't know if I, you know what, I'm gonna say it anyways. I was like, I wonder if someone's gonna
Say it,
judge
girl.
me. I was like, we
No,
still
there's no
have
judgment.
my son was cremated, so we have his urn in the bed in between me and my husband. Like he
Oh,
just sleeps with us every night, and like I know he's not his body anymore. Like it's like he's not in there, and
it's
that's
still
hard to
peace though.
fathom. But yeah, it's like
Yes.
some kind of like comfort. I don't know, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
need there. I don't know. Maybe there'll be a point where I'll put him on the shelf, but it's like for
Well, it's like
now.
yeah, and like there are clothes that Isaiah wore that I hadn't washed, and I literally
Oh,
me and my
me
husband
too.
put Ziploc bags, and I just take them out sometimes, and I just smell them, and
Keep
I
it in the
need that.
Ziploc bag, yes,
Yeah,
because that will
and
preserve it as long as you can. And like people might say, like,
yeah,
oh, that's weird, but like you don't understand. Like
yeah,
that's
like
all we
I
have
need to
left.
smell him. Yeah,
Yes.
like I need that, and like when everything had happened, I know that some moms like are unable to take the part of the nursery, and for me that was the opposite. I could not go in there
Yeah.
to see all of his stuff. I could
Mm-hmm.
not do it. I've not gotten rid of any of his stuff, and I won't get rid of any of it.
Yeah.
Even like his diapers. You know, my mom's like, "Oh, you could donate them," and I'm just like, "No, you
No,
know,
they were his.
his, they're
Yeah.
his,
It's something
and
about
I
that.
want to keep
Mm-hmm.
them." Yeah, and so my husband, he's so sweet. He, I mean, he's like the balance of my life. That man, he's just an amazing, amazing, amazing man.
Yeah.
Um, and he put a lock on one of the closets, and he puts everything in there. And anytime that I need to go in there, he'll unlock it for me, and I'll just smell it all, and I'll just hug it,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's something that thank goodness I do have a husband that, you know, respects when I need space. Because like when
Yeah.
I grieve, I sometimes need to be by myself and I just need to cry. And I really
Yeah.
don't want to cry in front of him because I don't want to like I'll start crying and I'm like, I'm sorry I'm crying. And he's like, why are
Why
you
are you
sorry?
apologizing?
So I
Yeah,
feel like
he's
it's
so
just like a trauma
sweet.
response. Like I just have to be
Yeah.
like, okay, no, like I don't want to cry and I don't want to burden
Right.
you.
Yeah. Yes. The burden. Like you feel like, oh, he's
Yes,
grieving too. I'm grieving. I don't want to make him more sad than he already is. It's
yes,
that like initial, it's that spousal thing where you want to take care of each other. Like you want to
yes. And
fix what's wrong, you know? But
Yeah,
you
and
can't fix this, it's
yeah,
just,
you can't.
yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for him because I know that not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And through grief, I've had to look at the things that God has given me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he gave us that time with Isaiah's body. He gave me some type of strength I don't understand.
Right.
And that's how I know it's the Lord because I don't understand it. And, he's given me a husband that loves me and cares. And
Yeah.
so I've tried to look at things that, these are the things that I do have that I might not have had,
Right.
and some people don't have. And
Exactly.
that really does help me as I try to say, in the book of Job, it says, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the Lord. And it's so hard to look at the things that God has given me
Mm-hmm.
when I'm in such a deep pain and
Yeah.
a deep place.
Right.
And He is so merciful. And there are times, like I said, I will literally just have to go and scream because I need to let it out. And a lot of people have said to me, like, you're so strong. And they don't
Oh,
understand that
I feel some type of way about that line.
yes, and I'm like,
Ugh,
I don't show others what I experience in my private time.
exactly.
Um,
I mean, you're not gonna
and,
walk around and like be a sobbing mess. Like you have
right, and I
to.
think that people sometimes are like, oh, she's fine now,
Yeah.
she's
Oh,
not crying,
yeah.
and I'm just like, you, we don't share all of the
Exactly.
raw parts of grief, and
Right.
some things I don't share because they're intimate,
Absolutely.
and they're intimate to me, and I don't want to share them.
Right.
There's some
Yeah.
things that I feel like the Lord has shared with me that I'm just like, I just want to keep that between me and you.
Right.
That is precious. Um and like having that time, like
Mm-hmm.
every night, I just like before bed, I just have that time that is like set for me
Mm-hmm.
to grieve and to pray. And
Mm-hmm.
I have that set for my time with God, and it's like an appointment. Like that's how I look at it. Like, God,
Yeah.
we're gonna have an appointment tonight. I got some stuff to tell you.
Right. This is our therapy session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want other mothers to know that in a place that is so dark,
Yeah.
there is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes that light seems so far away, and there's just going to be days that it seems so close, and there's going to be days when it's far away, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like you just have to um learn how to cope with what you have.
Right.
And there's people that like that love us and they want to help us, um and they don't know how. And I think that is so hard with grief is you know people don't understand that even though you're walking around and you're working, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my job is a huge part of my identity, and I
Yes.
am sure that people are like, she's fine now, but you master the poker face with
You
grief.
can,
and
yes. I'm a
and it's
teacher and like I work with
yeah.
kindergarten kids. Like you have to put on that show. Yeah, I work with the little ones. My therapist is like, "How are you doing this?" But it's like you said, like you put on that poker face and it's like I made a post a while ago and it's like I feel like sometimes I have to remind people that like, hey, like I lost my son. I'm still hurting. Um but yeah, no, I feel like
Sometimes I feel like if I bring it up, I end up consoling the other person.
oh my goodness,
And I'm like,
yes.
this is so
Oh.
uncomfortable.
Because it's like they start feeling weird about it and then you're like, okay, now I have to kind of suck up my emotions and say, oh no, it's fine,
Yes.
it's okay, don't worry about it,
Yeah.
and like you were saying about choosing who to share your vulnerable moments
Mhm.
with. I think that's such a powerful thing, is that we get to choose who to share those moments with and who to let in deeper into our story. Like I know, my husband's amazing as well. We have great husbands, thank goodness.
Yes.
He's the closest person to me that can remotely understand what I'm going through. He's
Yes.
the father of my son,
Right.
and so I'm thankful that we have that relationship to be able to share that together. And I'm so glad and like happy that your husband's amazing. He sounds wonderful. We need to have him come on sometime.
I
Have
know.
you
I
two
was like, he was
together.
on yeah, you want to go on with me? And he's like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I promise I'm not as intimidating. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I kind of just let it flow. But we had a husband and wife come on last week, actually, and it was
Oh
really
yeah.
nice to have them two together. So yeah, we need to get them on sometime.
Yes, I will talk him into it. He's an
Yeah,
amazing man,
and maybe I
and
can get my husband on too, so he won't feel so like
yeah,
intimidated. We'll have
we can bond.
another guy
Okay,
in.
we can
Yeah,
bond, all four of us.
absolutely. But I love everything that you shared with us tonight.
Thank you.
Your perspective on things just brings so much light and hope, to such a dark and, just sad circumstance. Child loss is something it's hard. And I think, you really highlighted the fact that it's okay to feel the feelings that we feel, to not necessarily like neglect those feelings, but to turn to faith in a way that can help carry that load, like we had mentioned
Yes.
earlier. And so I think that just brings so much hope to mamas who may feel, like they're in a dark place and they don't know where to
Yes.
start. And so I thank you for sharing,
Yes,
Isaiah
thank you
with
for
us.
having me.
Yeah, and I would love
That's
to have you
great.
back on. I feel like we could talk for hours, but it's like it's a school night. And
I know, and like I have work in the morning, and
yeah, but thank you
um,
so much for
I
joining
really
us on a
enjoyed
Monday
this.
night. Yes, and I hope,
Yes,
you enjoyed being on our
I did.
podcast
I did.
tonight.
I was so nervous about this all day,
No,
but
don't be
I'm like,
nervous.
it really did go well, and
Yeah,
I'll be praying so hard for you,
thank
in the next few,
you. I
and
appreciate that.
just know that there are people, moms that are prayer warriors that are, praying.
Yes,
There's moms that I don't even know, and I just pray for them. I'm like, Lord, just, give them the peace that you can give. So there are, people that are praying,
absolutely.
for you, like an army of women. So I think that's
Yes,
really special to have.
it is. And I'm so thankful that I was able to make another friend. So
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, I mean, under horrible circumstances, but it's
We need each other. People like us
yes.
need each other.
We do, absolutely. So I'll definitely be reaching out to you. Accept my Instagram
Yes,
requests, and
I will do that.
yes, no, I'm not offended. It's okay. I know you're probably busy with work. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. Everyone
Thank you.
watching, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dear Lost Mama.
Yes.
I'm taking a little break next month, so we might not be having a lot of live episodes in the following weeks. But I hope when we do pick back up, Kat will join us again, maybe with her
Yes,
husband,
absolutely.
hopefully. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us and, joining in on the conversation surrounding, grief. But thank you everyone for watching. Kat, I will get in
Yes.
touch with you afterwards, all right?
Awesome. Yes,
Thank you.
awesome. And you have a great rest of your week.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.